past 6:30, so we'll start up. So open space and recreation meeting, Hannah is not here, I'm Sean Harrington, I'll be kind of just taking the lead for tonight with, Hannah, being out for a little bit. I know she had asked, do we need to do intros? So she had asked that, if everybody was able to look at the, action plan and do ranking and do our own personal rankings.
Mine's not here, but I don't have hard copies. It's on there, but
that's fine. That's fine. And Pam, you can hear me, okay, correct? Is that correct? Oh, hello?
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, just making sure. Okay, so yeah, so I guess, so like I said, Hannah had asked that we take a look at the, proposed action plan, do our own rankings if we were able to. So I think for tonight, at least, that's kind of what we'll start with. If there's any new stuff or anything else we can discuss as well. But I think tonight, we'll kind of keep the focus on the action plan. I do have Hannah's, so I can read hers as well. And then we can all kind of go around and do it. And again, if somebody didn't do it, that's okay. I mean, everybody has many things on their plate, so just whoever was able to get it done, that's great. Even if you didn't do it, if you have some items that you want to add to it or anything at all, feel free to chime in.
Is this available online? The action plan?
It is, yeah. So and we can
I have the. I mean, it's there, but
Yeah, no, well, I will look at it now.
that's fine.
I think it was your own personal. I personally used 3. Hannah.
I think Hannah said 3. Did
Oh,
you say 3 for rankings?
Oh, she okay.
3 for highest, and
I had just kind of done it with a 1 being either way. So yeah, she had like 3 out of 3, 2 out of 3, with 3 being the highest. So does anybody want to have anything before we start?
yeah. So in doing these, and I'd be curious to hear what you guys had. I don't know how you can rank because they're all related. So for instance, I started to do a document here, and then I just like I can rate them based on what I use. Like my kids play sports, right? And my kids have used the softball fields and they use the soccer fields and things like that. But maybe not use some others. So if I was ranking them for me personally or my family, it would be a very different thing than someone else who's not really does sports and things like that, but uses open spaces. And then within that, like I don't know how you can not rank accessibility high, right? If you don't rank, and aren't you ranking accessibility at all these sites, whether it's parks or fields? You understand what I mean? So when I went to rank them, I feel like I was ranking against each other. You understand what I'm saying? And they're also related. And then the other part of this is what's important based. I know we talked about the community preservation. I mean, that's going to be a big. If we were able to do that, that's going to steer things in maybe a little different direction. What we have. So I had a difficult time saying communication wasn't as important, right? Because it's going to be important if we're putting something up. So I'd like to hear other people's that do this on a more regular basis. Because I felt almost selfish as ranking them. But.
Well, maybe that's fine because you have a vested interest.
Yeah, exactly. Probably my only asset to this community is being involved in like youth sports and things like that. If I'm being honest, because vernal pools is not my specialty. In case you're wondering, that's the only thing. So you understand what I mean? When you guys start talking about some things, I kind of go blank because I have no idea what that means.
I felt the same way. And
Yeah.
I ended up coming up with like a list, which I haven't shared with anyone yet, because I definitely wasn't working on it as well 5 minutes before the meeting. But it was like things that, like, I feel like the people that we asked the survey to kind of already gave us the answers, and like that are whatever we rank the items as wouldn't have as much weight as their responses. But it's fine for us to rank them. But then I came up with like some items that would be like implementation of these. So like what would we think are going to be the highest impact on an actual project. So like overall cost to the town, availability of funding, how long is it going to take to complete, and then like who's involved, if that's going to be important to us. And I just like, it's like a table that I came up with and I can put it on the drive, but it's, I think it will kind of help us figure out like what we need to do to go forward, I guess.
Yeah, because I think some of the issues we've had, I mean, I haven't been here forever, is we'll do something, and again, I'm on the fields committee, which is completely stalled, but that's a different story. Is we do something, and then it's the follow-up, and who's responsible for it from year to year? What's our yearly plan? Do we have on a field fertilization plan? Do we have a plan for that particular field? It's just been kind of passed off, and then if it doesn't get done, people don't. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think planning it out is more important than like I think Parks and Rec is the most important. You think that an open space for accessibility is more important. I really feel like it's trying to figure out what we have, trying to get that up to where it should be, and then looking at, are we getting community provision CPA money? Well, great. Then that we can expand that, and then how do we? And then who manages that? Which also brings us back to, we talked about Park and Rec. So I am in a complete, I don't know. I'm 100% with you. I would love to see that if you could put that in the shared drive, that'd be great, because I have the same exact thoughts.
Sure. And feel free to add to it.
Yeah, I think one of the things we keep talking about the CPA, and this committee certainly as a recommendation could be that we present the adoption of the CPA as a group. I recommend that to town meeting in November. I mean, it's going to do a town meeting. The select board would have to agree to put it on the warrant, which I think they would do if it comes from the committee. But if the committee feels strongly about it, it does represent an increase in taxes of, to be as little as I think 1%, or up to 3%, and those funds would be earmarked for those things that are allowed for in the CPA, which include things like housing, but it also includes things like, recreational opportunities or open space.
Do you think it will be
all those-
hard if they're planning to do, will it be on with the override of the 2.5?
No,
Will it be separate?
yeah, and it's just town meeting. It's not a referendum
Okay,
question. The one for the fire personnel is
Yeah,
a referendum.
okay.
So that's a
Important
valid
too.
question. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
valid question.
I'm not so sure everybody's gonna wanna do the 2.5 override plus the CPA.
You're right.
That's
You're
gonna
right.
be kind of hard.
That's why, that's why I say it would have
Yeah.
to be something that would be presented, from a committee
Yeah.
if we felt strongly about it, because obviously money is a
Oh, I think it should be presented. to anybody.
big consideration. People the option, because
Yep.
I think we show what we left on the table over the last 15 years. I mean, it's a considerable amount of money that the state would have, or the county would have provided to us. And, we have those numbers. Every year we get a report from Norfolk County showing what communities got the
Oh,
CPA. Yeah, what we would have gotten if we were a CPA. So that may be one thing to put out there as, a priority of this group, just throwing it out there. The other things, I just think that, the ball fields and, my kids in youth sports and we didn't have a track and then we got a track. We didn't have lights and then we got lights, because, there are movements. People say, geez, why can't we get Friday night football games? So in
Right.
1996, we wired all our track meets on the road because we had a crappy cinder track. So we built it. So it's almost like, why can't we have a turf field like everybody else? And then there was a group that said, let's get, so to your point, it's kind of like people getting involved in a particular initiative, taking it, and then that's it. Big picture, I think Michael Connor is doing a good job of looking at what's it gonna take to maintain those fields that we have on Blackstone Street. Michael's the athletic director.
Yeah.
So he's taken that on. Used to be the Parks Department that took care of those things, cutting the grass and fertilizing. And, he's engaged in a company that does it professionally. So they're gonna make sure that they're fertilized regularly and So I think there needs to be more of that. Youth baseball, I know, takes great pride in what they do with their complex. Soccer, I mean, the other groups have more transition with the boards that they have. So it just seems that, you know, some boards are more involved than others. And every now and then you get, like, right now they have somebody that's very active with the groundskeeping at High Street. I forget the gentleman's name, but he's been at it for a while and he does a great job. So I think it does need to be, you know, more of a focus, having an organization, whether it's done that, we say Parks and Rec, a Parks Department that's responsible for making sure that the properties are maintained and future needs are addressed. Recreation, I mean, you know, I don't know if that's important for us to make sure that we have, maybe it is, programs like some communities do. I mean, we have the YMCA that does a program at the Silver Lake for us. And of course, we have the school programs and the police school program, you know, beyond that. I think, I personally think that the priority should be what we've been talking about is we put a playground in at Silver Lake and it's a fundraiser, and we put a splash pad in and it was a fundraiser. It's probably about $150,000 investment, but that's kind of where it ended, you know, moving forward. Yeah, the town makes sure that the splash pad is, you know, properly closed up at the beginning of the year, Sean does, and make sure that it's opened up but what about the pad? The pad's starting to wear out, you know? Really how that happens is I'm down there and I say, geez, the pad's wearing out. I call Sean and say, hey, we got to, you know, get. So I think one of the things, you know, is having somebody to getting back to a true Parks Department. In the past, what we've had is really a board that hasn't been active probably in 25 years. I mean, they do the schedule for the different fields is primarily what their role has been. And there was one gentleman who oversaw the maintenance he worked for the DPW, Roland, and Roland passed away a few years ago, and he's been trying to pick up the pieces from there. So I think it would be good if there was a group that could, you know, look to set priorities, work off of a plan like this that can be ever evolving, and you know, and then you know, present the requests to the appropriate boards, and it's up to, you know, the people like Sean to execute it and get those things done. But you can only do what's funded. You know, right now we have been funding playground improvements, and we've been doing that. But you know, so you know, to your point, I think we do need to have, you know, somebody that's going to be advocating for these things on an ongoing basis, going down and seeing that, you know, different improvements need to be made. Splash pad needs to be resurfaced, or the you know, the point you made up about the washing out of the fields at High Street. I mean, a lot of times you don't know about that stuff until somebody brings it to our attention, you know, and yeah. So anyway, I'm pontificating a little bit.
Yeah, no, but that's good. I think it is a good point though. We do talk park and recreation a lot. I think it depends on what residents want. I mean, recreation is like you were saying, that is like programs.
Right.
If we're talking maintaining fields, potentially in the future, open space trails, and various things like that, it is more of a parks department. And maybe there's it's, I don't know if it's this group, another group that kind of oversees things and makes, like you were talking about. But it would be, if we're talking about better maintenance on fields, more consistent playgrounds and various things. I mean, there's other things as well. I bring up the basketball court at Northfield a lot. That thing is totally, you know, we've cut trees. We did some tree work up there just to open it up. I'm in the point, same thing. I'm on fields all weekend. That's my weekend. All week. I had 2 practices last night. That's fields of my life.
Yeah.
And so I know, the importance of, it's nice having the good field, but also the other things for the siblings.
Right.
So so like, and that's where that basketball court comes into play. If that was kind of, and I'm just using that as like a single example, but if that was kind of refurbished and some work done to that, that's an area where all the little kids are running around while their brother or sister is playing. But all that requires, yeah, I mean, you need the people to do it or the funds or, so we do need to nail down. It's great having these, but nailing down, how it's gonna happen, and then the maintenance. I mean, you put in a splash pad or anything, it needs maintenance. You need to be out there regularly. Brian does a great job. He's out at the fields. I try to get out on Mondays or Tuesdays to just do the loop from the weekend. But you need more of a presence out there, to really, especially if we're talking about expanding, because we talk about Silver Lake's like the premier location in town. But there's other smaller locations too that you don't want to forget about on top of it. So, so I think that's another thing we do need to kind of nail down. We keep talking park and rec director, and if we're talking, we're looking at programs, and I don't see a lot of, I don't see a lot of requests for programs.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's more, you got to do the park part first. Like, you have to have the facilities to where they need to be, and then maybe programming comes in.
And see what usage is.
Yeah,
Right,
see
right.
what people use it.
Well, and that's the thing, is when the field, as things get a lot more use, then outside groups want to rent more and various things, and then then it maybe becomes a little more of a park and rec involvement, managing that, or however that goes.
Yeah.
Does Parkville get rented at all?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
There's like I know, like, there's a club lacrosse that uses it a lot. Not to the event, like, I go over to Medway to play pickleball all the time. Every Saturday and Sunday morning, there's like soccer year round.
Yeah.
There's lacrosse going on. There's men's league soccer. There's men's baseball.
Is that one of several fields that they have, turf fields, or do they just have one?
They have 3 turf fields.
We've got one,
Yeah.
and it's almost like just our groups alone probably are enough to keep it busy for the most part. It sounds like they rent it out a little bit.
Yeah.
If we had more than one, then, you'd have more. I know Franklin gets a good amount of rental.
Yeah. And I know on the fields committee, one of the initiatives would be to add on that first upper field area where they play soccer and there's a practice football field, to have one of those spaces be another turf, just because based on wear and tear and what it is to maintain an actual grass field. So, but again, that's stuck in neutral. I could tell.
Once you get games in, I mean, Walpole, if you
Yeah.
have 1A, the new field complex there, it's turned into, there's 2 turf fields that are lined for everything under the sun, but there's massive grass fields in the back that get used by youth groups in town, club soccer, baseball. I mean, the whole place is getting nonstop use. So yeah, I mean, and again, that's year round. Like, you go by there in February and club soccer is up. So that's the other thing too, is like, you can't get to the point. Do you want to start renting? A lot of groups are fighting for space in towns, and maybe if Bellingham wanted to look to rent fields more, I don't know if there's a desire to do that. Maybe kind of try to attract some rental at I have no clue how frequently or how often it's looking to get used, but and then you have the upper area too. If there was a turf section, obviously that draws people want to be on turf, but grass as well. I mean, it's open space, it's open area.
So I mean, kind of going back to the beginning of this, it's finding what we have, maintaining that to start. Like, we talked about expansion and taking on new parcels of land, but we need to maintain the first group of whatever we have. And we've surveyed, I've gone to different places in town. I picked a lot of sports fields, but even the town common, and that looks amazing. And there's some stuff there, obviously it needs some maintenance, but what is it? What needs to be done? What needs to be done 2 years from now, 5 years from now, the splash pad, the turf and all that stuff. It's a huge undertaking, and just ranking this, I felt like I wasn't doing things kind of justice, but I would be interested to hear what other people have.
I did just want to throw in too, if you go to Rice Rec and rent them, I know you were talking.
Yeah.
But that's got club baseball, club softball, club lacrosse, and then all town, and there's no turf up there, all grass,
Yeah.
all grass.
So
I'm
it
up
can be
there.
done.
Oh, yeah, it's just like, what are you looking, you know?
Yeah, and they bring in outside, sports turf specialties to prep all their fields for the year. They spend a few, $100,000 just on that every
Yeah.
year. But they started at a great point and haven't let it go at all. You understand what I mean? Like every year that group comes in, it's maintained. So we're at a point where if like use High Street fields,
Yeah.
in some ways you almost want to scratch the whole thing and start from scratch because there's so many issues with it that your initial investment would be tough. But I agree with you. You don't have to put turf in. That's a great facility. I walked it with Jeff
Oh,
when I went over there. But they also tax the user groups, the in-town and the club. I think went back and redid my notes, but it was something to the tune of they used to have a $5 tax per kid. If you were playing like youth baseball, now it's up to like $50 to $70. But all that money is used to, and it goes right back in the fund. So
In the area.
Can we stop doing that without doing that protection?
yeah, well, one of the issues we're going to have, and you mentioned it earlier, is like baseball's handled baseball, and so you have all these little fiefdoms, for lack of a better phrase, that if you tried to pull that from Kerry's dead hand, like Kerry Farrell, it was awesome. I'm friends with him, but that's the thing, and they've done so much work for it to pull that from them and say, now we're going to charge you the X amount of dollars to use a field, even though you did all this work. So it'd be very difficult. They started a new complex up there that was from scratch, and they had another complex, Sweat Field, which is down there, like the post office. That they only had that and the beach before, so they started that from scratch. So it was kind of the optimal time to do it because they had brand new fields there, and they could increase that over time. But here you would have groups be. I'm thinking, especially. I mean, I don't think soccer would really care because they just use the fields. I think softball would be happy to merge with someone and be able to maintain it, but baseball's put a lot.
The numbers on baseball are still 400.
Yeah.
And they go about, if you visit the complex, it's fun. Even right now, it's just phenomenal. The beginning of the season, the condition it's in. Whereas softball, their numbers this year, I think I heard that they were down around 70.
Yeah.
So it's hard. The 3 fields, really what we should do, and I know they get sensitive to it because they do tournaments, and that's their big thing. They need the 3 fields to do their 2 weeks of tournaments. If they went to 2 fields, you could really get away from the woods and lay it out nicely and make it so much better.
You could start a revenue stream if you combined it, if every kid had to pay for the sport.
So, and I think if you ask baseball, part of their user fee definitely goes to fields. Because when my son played for a couple years, I'm like, all right, so I'm paying whatever it is, $60. So that's a t-shirt, that's a hat. But then so most of it, I would venture to say, I've never looked at their books, is they spend a lot of money on.
They usually have a good $70,000 or $80,000 in the bank. So they're doing capital improvements down there too. The batting cages, they're doing all the fencing that they have in the outfield that needs maintenance. It's 30 or 40 feet high.
Yeah, but when you have the numbers, it's easier to do that because it's
Right.
times 400. So
it sounds like one of the issues is maintaining what we gather, improving the maintenance upon what we have. And I think that's fair. I think as far as, in my opinion, what people want, what we're hearing is the rail trail was enormously popular. People like to walk, people like to be out and doing those types of things. I think the work that we do up at Blackstone Street will be helpful as well. As far as walking goes, I like to walk on the track. So, how we expand that, I don't think you do. I think right now it's expanding into Blackstone and it's already going into Franklin. So I think that part is done. But you're right, work on some of the existing facilities and putting a maintenance plan together, because that splash park,
They aren't coming out. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. They're not coming out anymore either. They have to be
ourselves,
right or shut it down.
Well, things like the basketball court, I know you mentioned Northfield, but the one at the high school, middle school is terrible now too. It needs to be sealed. It probably needs to be grinded and repaved, which is, for an area that size, I bet it's $60,000 anyway, Sean. to line that pavement.
So how does it, and you know this better than anyone, how does that work? So when that needs to happen, does that come out of a DPW budget? Does that come out of?
That's, we say, hey, we gotta get that done, so we put some money on the budget. We go to town meeting and we appropriate $60,000, we get an estimate, to get it done. And we go get it done,
Yeah.
so, which is, which is why I think it would be helpful to get to a true body that's overseeing these things and making recommendations, not doing the work, but making the out there, visiting these things, putting a capital plan together, because, Sean, oversees the parks, but he also oversees all the streets and roads.
Yeah.
He does a good job doing it, but, we got somebody else that's gonna be working, under him overseeing that, but even that, I think we had a group advocating for this stuff,
So what did the Parks Department do before it kind of, I don't want to say disbanded, but just turned into a permitting group? Do you know?
It rarely, not much, to be very honest. People that say, oh, we had a Parks Department, they did, I've been here for 35 years. I can tell you, they would meet, I'd go to some of their meetings, they get input from Roland to say, he was the Parks Director. This was what we did this year, we did this, we did this, we did this. When he took over the Parks Department in the mid-80s, they had one push one. That's what they had. And they paid the insurance policies for youth baseball. They paid the insurance policy for youth softball. That was their contribution to youth sports, and the sports programs. A lot of times they cut the rest themselves. And so they've never been actively involved in putting programs together. They have, it was really Roland who was the full-time guy who'd come and say, Dennis, the fencing is falling apart down at, High Street, or we got to put some money in the budget to take care of it. It was, seeing the pants stuff.
So would it make sense? Can you create, and now I'm going to get selectmen, do you reactivate it? Like, how can you do that?
There is a Parks Department, and they are going to be, there's one member and we'll be looking to appoint two others to that body. So that is something that, because it was not dissolved as part of the charter,
My wife would say, stop volunteering for stuff. Whether it was the softball board or something else, she's like, you started to slow down and now you have a meeting today. It's 35. No,
it's Bill Roberts is still there.
Is he still doing it?
Well, Bill does all the scheduling. He does a great job with the scheduling, but that's it. And I think that really what it needs is what we're talking about. Sitting down and putting a capital plan together and presenting it to the DPW, and then presenting it jointly to the select board to say, hey, this is what needs to get done. And rather than just, a lot of times, like when you saw that picture of that rotted
Stands.
right at the ice floor, it's embarrassing, but you need to have people out there looking for that stuff and getting involved in that stuff to make it happen. So I think an active Parks Department is and that doesn't mean buying lawnmowers and maintenance. That means a group that's looking at what the town wants and what needs to be improved upon, and advocating for fun. That's really never been a role of the it was never a role of the Parks Department, to be very honest. You go to their meetings and good people, but it'd be story time. It'd be
I went to one,
So it'd be story time, and then we don't have any money, sorry. Seriously, that's what they say. You want to go more than, and I'd say, good job, Bill. Good job. Anyway, so I think that's a
So
start.
if there was a Parks Department, they can advocate for money.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
There is a park commission. Let's say park commission,
Okay.
when you say park department, you think of what the DPW is. The DPW has the equipment, they have the mowers, they
So
have,
they could be.
but a commission that would advocate, a parks commission that would advocate
There's not
for
enough people to
funding,
do it.
for improvements and things like that, saying,
To do like, we've done assessments of all these properties, like we took pictures and things like that. That could be a yearly thing, and you work with baseball and softball and say, all right, tell us
Right.
some of the, I can go look at it, but you're there every day. president of BGSA, tell me some of the issues that we're running into.
What are your priorities?
Yeah, and then what does this look like 5 years from now? What does this look like 10 years from now?
The softball games, like I said, Dennis, we gotta make the fencing safer for the kids up at High Street. We told them, they went out and got quotes, and we went back and we did it. I mean, that's kind of how it happened. It was more the softball saying, we don't know what to do here. It was, well, it's basically, yeah, there's nobody doing that. It's them coming here. Kerry called me, just a short time ago. They want to do something with the batting cages. Some of the fencing's failed or whatever. They need $10,000. So July 1 will have that funding for them to improve that fencing. But you're right. If it was a commission, then there is a park commission, but it's one person. So if there was an active commission, then the active commission, if I was on that body, you meet with youth baseball, you meet with the soccer and these groups and say, what do we need to do? What's, what are the,
So what's
priorities?
it gonna take to get the commission up and running?
Not much. I think, yeah, people and I retired and I said I want to be in the park commission. That's really what I want to do. Because I like that stuff, but I can't do it obviously while I'm
Right.
but I'll be done soon. So if nothing else, I would volunteer with that group, but it'd be good to get 2 people that want to be parks commissioners.
And who's doing it now, Bill Wallace?
Nobody's really doing it, but Bill does the sketch. Yeah, Bill does the sketch. So it'd be good to have. It's a 3-member commission. And right now it's just Bill, and we did appoint other people because there was a lot of talk about abolishing the commission. And it's good that didn't happen. It stays but it'll be more for planning purposes, not for
To work with a parks and recs person. Right? They're
working with the
hand in hand.
DPW,
Well, now, yeah.
yeah. But I think short term, it'd be great to have a commission
Mhm.
that could help to put, work on things like this on an ongoing basis, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Separate list going.
Yeah, I mean, the big piece would be working together with DPW, but having that help advocating for funds is a big part of it, because you want to do something with the basketball court, you got to request money to do it, and that's just one thing. I mean, if you really start diving into them, each field, probably, or each court or each playground, they all could probably use something. So, and that's the other piece too, like, it's not all gonna be done in this summer. Like, it's kind of like.
Planning part of it,
Right.
10 years from now.
Yeah,
Take away at it.
exactly, and like spread it out. I mean, really looking at what we have, these things, and not focusing on 1 or 2 or 3 specific things only. There's a lot of good spaces, again, like I would love, in Northfield, I've mentioned like even a walking track around the perimeter of that. I think that would be pretty cool. And that's just what I would think would be cool though. I mean, it would be, but those are different things is what I'm saying on Northfield. So you get a Stallbrook or any other fields or playgrounds or parks around town, you can come up with different ideas. So maybe it's like focus on one thing, one or 2 for a season, and the winter is time to plan for the next 2 for the fall, and that's.
But there are a lot of spaces and a lot of stuff that needs to get done. So you'd have to phase all that stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly.
100%.
Plan.
Would the
It's
park and
literally
rec
10-year plan.
Yeah, whatever it may be, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What we do yearly and then what we are going to attack each.
Yeah, and some of it, like the bleachers, those are gone. You know what I mean? They were done. We told you that it's gonna get loamed and seeded, that area. But like those type things, we could just kind of dig safe and do it or whatever. DPW can just do some of those things.
But rebuilding a field in High Street, I think that would be step 1, really rebuilding one all the way from the woods, commit to 2 fields up there, you don't need 3. And,
More parking.
Yeah, right, you have
So
some.
you have a ton.
Parking, they do their time now.
Would they also be responsible for like maintaining conservation land as well? Would they just be doing recreational?
Nope, I think parks would certainly, I think it makes sense, the commissioners working with the, looking at open space and, yeah, so certainly that could be something that would be a part of that role. There's no question about it.
That would be, yeah, I mean, that's a perfect thing to talk about. Where does it, what does that group look at? What does open space have under its watch or control, whatever, exactly. So I think that would be a part of this as well, as nailing down what stays with what group type of thing. Whether they all just kind of move together or what.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I could see a Parks Commission getting active and doing not only what we do, getting out, looking at all of our facilities and saying, okay, we think year one, this is where we should focus and just.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it's just getting going. I mean, getting the people, starting it and then starting. Right.
Yeah.
And I do think, just like this group has done, you could get people to like, hey, go look at that spot.
Yep.
Tell us the things that you think. We've done a lot of legwork on that, but I think people would be willing to do that if they knew like it was going to change and get better, we're going to maintain it. I think that would be a big piece to it from people I talk to.
With something like, you look at those basketball courts at the middle school in the summertime, kids out there playing on.
Yeah.
It's just pick up, you don't need coaches, they did have a little league out there at one point.
Yeah.
But they fall into disrepair, you know, it needs to be.
Yeah.
Paved and remarked, you know. Yeah. But,
So we're not going.
So, yeah, I mean, I think
We are, yeah. Our priority, it sounds like we've just talked about our priority.
I'll be honest with you, just on that note, I had ones or 1/2 for everything. I mean, there might have been a couple subcategories that I kind of had as 2s. But yeah, on that note, the only thing I had as 3s were things that I would say, can they be looped in with something else?
Right.
And so I gave them a 3. You know, like information. After looking at this, I'm like, well, can that just be rolled into communication? So I gave that a 3. Or would communication be a 3 and information be a 1? So that in reality, yeah, as I did it, I'm like, yeah, they're really all 1s. You know, accessibility is not a 1, like you said. So
Can I ask a basic question about that?
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it. Your ranking, for what purpose? To identify the top 1, 2, 3 projects that you're gonna focus in on? Or is it just to get a number assigned to it and then you don't really accomplish anything? So I'm curious as to what, because I can see it's a pretty comprehensive list. And I had done some questionnaires before, they were like volunteer at town meetings and you answer all the questions, and I assume that's where this
That's
is all
what this is
boiling
based
up.
on,
But then what,
those surveys that everybody.
it sounds like from what you guys are talking, they were all things that you could list. You could also add your own thing, like I said, Northfield looks like, you know, needs some it's in disrepair and it needs work. But I'm just curious, you know, as what's the ultimate objective for ranking these? Is it, you know, there's gonna be a purpose, and you're gonna focus in on what, the top 2, 3, 4, 5? Or, because you
I
can't.
feel like what we wanted to do is what you're saying, but that I don't think we were there yet. And I'm hoping that like the spreadsheet that I at least started will help us get there, because it focuses more on like the implementation of doing these things. So then it would be like, okay, like what do the people want in the survey? And then like, what do we think is the most feasible thing? Now let's come up with a few options and mark them all out. Like, what's this going to cost? What's this going to take? And how does that pair up with our spreadsheet of rankings?
And then to develop a plan, that's where this was going.
yeah, so I think it
A
did.
3 to 5 year plan.
And it actually did. I think it's done a little bit of what we were hoping. I think that was part of it. It was like, okay, what do we? There's also a 2017 study, feasibility study. I think it was that was done. With some of the information we've talked about is from that. But it was really to try to start nailing down like what's the plan. And I think we're starting to see like, you know, a Parks Commission and an open space maybe, or a Parks Commission and fields tend to be a popular item and so, yeah, I think more than anything was to kind of help. This group just started a couple months ago, so it's really trying to help kind of start prioritizing and where do we stop?
Yeah, it's clearly needed as
Yeah,
I had this sense I started getting that type of anxiety when you're thinking I'm trying to boil an ocean.
yeah.
And I can see you guys have been in it for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my gosh, all right, so what's the end goal? So
Yeah.
you can at least accomplish a few things and you feel like you
Right. Yeah.
succeeded, right? Because if you don't have measures of success, you never feel like you're making.
Yeah. So I think that's why I thought this was the spreadsheet that's on here, and I can show you. It's hard to rank those because they're just too interrelated.
Yeah.
And you need to look at just like, all right, what are all our parcels? Like, what do we have? What's in good shape? What's needs a lot, rank almost those from what's priority. What's going to cost this amount of money? What's going to cost this amount of money? And then try to attack that over.
See what's attainable and what's. not.
Yeah. And so the Community Preservation Act would allow you to make some of those improvements with funds that we don't currently maybe have.
Is that a matching type of program where we have to raise so much money and they'll match or?
We have to, adopt a, commitment to, raise a 3%, increase in taxes, and that would go towards, CPA, which can be used for open space, parks and rec,
Yeah.
whatever. And then what the county does is we would get a percentage of the real estate transactions that are made as a tax or a fee that's charged, and that we get a percentage of that back, which typically is a couple $100,000 a year, for Bellingham.
Substantial.
And then that percent equates to a couple $100,000. So on an annual basis, you're talking $300,000 or $400,000 a year. So it's real money.
Yeah.
You can prioritize some projects and maybe in 2 or 3 years, you have, considerable amount of money where you could look at turf fields, or you could look at, doing some substantial things. You could look at purchasing a piece of property that's important to you. That's how we purchased Silver Lake. I mean, we got a grant and bought it in 1993 or something. It was privately owned.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I don't think that after talking, we necessarily have to go through and discuss like what we gave each thing, unless everybody wants to do that. I mean, I don't know how the group feels.
No,
Okay. Anyone on Zoom want to share theirs at all, or what?
Not me.
If we share them on the SharePoint, so.
Yeah, we can do that.
And
Yeah,
then
you can
we
do
can look
that,
at it
yeah.
and then we can.
Right, okay, we don't necessarily have to just go through them, one
See
at a
where-
time here, so that's
We're
good. But I think it did do kind of what we were looking for it to do, is we've started kind of going in a direction. I think part of it would be, so there's a couple people that will be appointed to the Parks Commission, or maybe, or,
There will be.
okay,
Yeah, I think the goal is to look at, there's an election coming up the first week of June, and then following that, I think those are the types of things that we'll get active on.
okay. So I think it will be then just taken, and some of this is gonna come off and be more of a Parks Commission function, and some will be more open, or, open space. Or however, right,
And we can certainly, one of the recommendations could be to, have the Parks Commission put together a capital plan and start that work.
Well, you already got the computer, you can type that.
yeah. Yeah, some of those.
Specifically to address some
Yeah.
of
Specific.
existing, properties.
Okay.
And whoever becomes the parks foreman, can attend those meetings.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, that's
Right.
awesome. They're not bad, I mean, I kind of enjoy it, I think it's, I've done them in the past.
Yeah.
And I think it's from just being same thing, that's my weekends, that's my week, and then the weekend is how we get into 10 fields between 2 cars,
Right.
so.
It's the same thing. My kids will literally, you're out there in the fields and, gee, we don't have ball field lights at the Little League fields. Figure out how to do that. We don't, now the girls want them at the softball fields. That's fair. Let's figure out, and actually softball did a lot of the work to raise that money to do those.
Yeah.
And, when you're out there and you see these things, you have a commission, now you got 3 people out there seeing these things, in addition to everybody else, people chirping in their ear saying, hey, You know, why can't we have whatever?
Yeah.
Things get done that way.
Yep.
You know, as opposed to having everybody off in their own direction, so.
Right, or me just coming with, we need this, or one particular person, or Jesse, you know, just pushing,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good.
I think it's. Yeah, it's time to really kind of push that.
Yep.
Almost. You're thinking it was,
Instead of a
If they could, if they could expand it, I think it makes sense to,
softball, one from baseball, one from soccer.
you know, they certainly could expand it, you know.
And then everybody,
And some from
Hotel
hotel
leagues
leagues or something.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you start, right, you would wanna,
Yeah, you
because
want
they,
to,
you
you want
gotta
to
be
try
careful.
and keep everybody at large.
Yeah, that's the thing, because you want to also be careful, because you don't want the people on that committee steering, oh, we gotta do 5 things at this one field,
Yeah.
because their kids are all play that
Yeah,
one
that's true.
sport.
That's true.
It's almost.
it's almost better if they're not involved in
Not,
any of those sports, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, because and sometimes not even realizing it, and then sometimes realizing it, they try to steer all the money and the capital to improve the field specifically from one sport. And so you definitely would wanna, that needs to be, trickled amongst the sports, the fields, the playgrounds, kind of equal distribution, also taking into account how much use is at each one,
Mhm.
of course, but, less use also means less regular maintenance. You know, some fields are gonna need constant versus some, you just maybe do a one-time really nice cleanup. And then it's just a regular spring and fall, and your regular mowing, obviously, but, you don't need to put as much into it.
I
So,
feel
yeah,
like
wanna-
we focused a lot on like the Parks and Rec aspect of it, but I meant to send out an email about this thing that I put on the drive, but I forgot. So there's the thing on the drive, and I did like statistical analysis of the survey results, and it seems like the majority of people want sorry, my headphones just fell out. The majority of people want conservation, and I think there's a specific reason why, which you'll see from the word cloud on the last slide. And I could share my screen if you wanted and show it to you.
Yep.
Sure.
If
Do I need to do anything?
No,
Pam, could you let me?
Yep. You are all set to do it.
Thanks. Um, so you can all see that?
Yep.
Okay, so I went through each question and just like counted up the numbers. So these are our respondents. We had a lot of female 35 to 54-year-old, a couple people 65 plus, apparently a few 0 to 9-year-olds. Don't know about that, but okay. And then the majority said that they need more open space, or that they think we want more open space out of our 509 responses. I do feel like response number 1 may have been a test because it was all blank, but I'm counting it. So then this is question 1. Let's go away. Which is, what should the town prioritize? So the rankings were from 1 being the most important to 5 being the least important. And then people had an option to pick multiple. They were actually supposed to assign a rank to each one. I kind of feel like it was supposed to be like a choose 1 through 5, but a lot of people had like 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, something. So I don't really know how representative this will be because of that. It was like 80% people answered that way, but blue, which is the most important to 273 people is protecting areas of conservation or ecological value. And then it seems like for open space for recreation and community events, we had a decent amount of people there. And then like interconnections, we actually kind of had people more like neutral. And then this is just the places that people visited. Seems like a lot of people went to Town Common. I think we already saw that. And then I broke it up by the quadrants. We had a ton of people who did not respond, but we had most people in general, I guess quadrant 1 think they need the most work. And then this is kind of a breakdown of, like, I went through each response. It was like you could answer the question in the comments. So I kind of broke it up into similar categories based on what the responses were. This particular one right here was people saying like, because I live there, I live in that quadrant, so I want more open space. And then this is by percent, you'll notice. So like this one only had 4 responses, but it looks like it's completely full. But then like this one had a lot of similar responses. So it's just to kind of show the breakdown by quadrant. And then this one, the why, how many people said in general, regardless of quadrant, like which part they wanted. So the most responses we had was just more open space without any details. And our second most was no response. And I guess like improved maintenance is pretty high, more community recreational space, protect spaces from future development. So another key of who's answering this. What features should we provide to better meet your needs? We had these ones which were from like the list, and then they could also give us their own comments with the other. So more natural areas was our biggest one. And then more children's play areas, I think. Yeah, looks like it. But it's pretty even there. Any challenges or barriers? Apparently Excel does not like this type of chart, if anyone was wondering. So lack of information, I think, was our biggest one. And then we also have these, which are, again, I kind of just broke down the responses. A lot of them are like full sentences, more specific information. So I just kind of broke them down into this. And then like miscellaneous comments is people being like reiterating something from the previous question. And then this one, we had a lot less, no responses. We had a lot of people say everything's great.
You said a lot of people said that?
Yeah, a decent amount, 133.
We're done.
Well, also 222 said lack of information. So that's telling me that, what was the title of it again? I can't see it. The challenges and barriers that prevent you from enjoying it. They just don't know that it's available, right? Is that what that's telling us?
Yeah.
Having something, redeveloping our website and having something there. I know Hannah's been talking about.
Yeah.
Where people can just go, you know, yeah, town resources or open space or whatever it is. So
Right.
there's some information out there.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
And then what actions do they think would increase their use of open space? They
Right.
agree, town website by and large. And then some people also want more access. And then maps is pretty high. Town cleanup days is pretty high. Cable access, guess it's not being used as much anymore. We also had other forms of communication, so social media like Facebook, Twitter, things like that, newsletters and pamphlets. better signage, which I feel like if we had put that as one of the responses, we would have had a lot more people check it off than just two. Better maintenance and upkeep, miscellaneous opinions. We had one respondent who would like more Brazilian food, which I have to give a shout out to.
I can't believe that.
And then this is my favorite one. I took the last question, which was just any other suggestions or comments, and put it into a word cloud. So these were all the ones that people said they liked, and these were all the ones that they didn't like. So if they spoke about it in like a negative term, then I would put it in that category. If they spoke about it positively, like love the SNET, then I would put it in that category.
Yeah.
So,
And the bigger it is, the more they said it. Is that what you're?
although I don't know what sort of like, I guess, calculation they were using, because Brazilian food again is quite large and only 2 people.
I didn't even notice that it was hidden. But on the bottom one, obviously it says warehouses the biggest. Does that mean it came up the most, or you're not sure?
That came up the most. Is there like 23 times or something?
Yeah, yeah.
I can't really do anything about that. It's not really our thing here, but
Yeah.
gives you an idea of who's responding to.
Well, yeah, because I think there's been more building of that type of structures than probably others.
Well,
Or
that's-
ones that you can see that are prominent, right? Like closer to roads. I'm sure there's others that were built that people don't care as much about, but
Well, that's why we're updating the
Notice
plan.
these distribution centers in Bellingham, most people
Yeah.
don't. They see the trucks, right?
right. But if it's not right on the main road up at the corner near the Dunkin' Donuts, and they don't notice it. Yeah. And they don't mention like how that affects taxes, but it's near the end of that.
I think that's when the plan's being updated, because it's 2017, so it's almost, 9 years old. And then that can go into the master plan eventually, when that gets updated. And then planning can be aware of it, help with all these issues. Townspeople open, open space.
So I'm just kind of not wrapping this all together, but obviously people want to know like what we have to offer, like what spaces we have. We need to figure out a way for each space, even if we went to each space and said, what are the top 3 things? Like give us an expensive thing that can happen, give us a low budget thing that happen, something in the middle that can improve it. And for some, it might be low. Like if we just have an open space, it just needs a gravel access to it. That's an easy add, and that's a plus, right? Like that's a win. Whereas somewhere else where you have to completely redo a field and you're talking about $300,000 and bring in sports turf specialty or something like that, then that's the high budget number for that. So, and then publicizing it, like people need to see like what they're paying for and that we're progressing forward. Because I do think, and we've talked about being on fields and saying like, that's been like that for, those goals that are in the woods up near the high school, those have been there I walk by there every day when I walk. So that type of thing where people say, all right, I see some progress. And then maybe you're a little more behind the Community Preservation Act because you're seeing the start of like what it can be. And then focusing on that on the website.
Any might go in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then go take a trip over to Medway and see what they did with CPA money and how everything's connected and, how nice. And I'm not saying it has to look like that, but like taking steps getting there. So
there are even just having, Caleb and I have talked about this, a sign, an open space committee sign. So there could be a trail and you put that sign at the trailhead and that it could be a trail people have passed for years, but you put that sign and then next thing you know, they found a trail that they walk on a daily basis. But just on the website, is there a list of open space locations in town on our website?
This is static.
I don't think
I believe.
What's that?
I don't think so.
I couldn't find it.
Right, so even.
if you can't find it, then it's not there. You know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't
No,
mean
that's what I'm saying.
No, it shouldn't be bars.
Yeah, exactly.
It should be full blown.
When I
Well,
look at the maps,
Right, so that's even a thing that we have a new website coming, like an immediate thing is even just getting those.
Listing all the sites.
Immediately.
With a search
Immediate.
function that.
Yeah, an immediate improvement would be get those And then from there, some sort of map where it shows them,
And
like the locations.
So that's something here that definitely has
yeah,
worked with
Yeah.
Karen on, so
Yeah.
that Karen's our IT, so when that comes out, that should be there.
Right.
It should have that presence, yeah.
That's an immediate thing, that's an improvement, people talking, and it should be easy to get to, like. I know, just because I couldn't find it doesn't mean it's not there, but it shouldn't, we should be able to find it quickly.
and even on those, and I mean, I know it's a lot of upkeep and that type of thing, but if you take an open space, wherever it is, pick a spot, and you say, recent improvements, 2020, spring of 2024, we added this. And it could be something small, but just to show
Yeah.
and highlight that progress, even social media wise, like to get that out more, because people clearly have said it's a lack of information. I don't think people try that hard, but I think people don't know about it. But if they see like things are actually improving, it's going to help immensely, because I think the average person thinks like this, they're negative, right? You don't get a lot of wicked positive phone. I bet you don't get 1,000 positive phone calls. And I actually have sent emails to like select boards. Are like, I know you guys have a tough job, but thank you for like my road. It always gets plowed. I appreciate that, because they don't get those, right?
Yeah.
You have like, hey, the pothole's been there for 7 years and no one's. You always get those, but if we can, like, we don't have to be negative. We can be positive with things that we have. So I think identifying them, prioritizing, and not going into too much depth. I literally think if you have like what's a huge thing that we'd have to do and spend money on, what's a medium and what's an easy, like what can we,
Quick fix.
let's fix one thing and show the progress.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
move on from there and hopefully get a little bit of. And can I go back to the question you guys were talking about before? So a parks commission, and you asked about open space. So this is an open space committee. Open space committee.
Yeah. It's to update the plan,
Yeah.
so that's on.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's like a conservation commission, which is completely different. But could that parks commission be a parks and open space commission? And I do think expanding that a little bit and having like 5 people on it. I know a bigger group does not always mean the progress has happened, but that's where it kind of melds together.
Keep it separate.
Well, that's my question.
Parks commission separate and keep the open space separate.
Yeah. That would,
I think that would be better. That way they can focus on the parks.
Yeah.
And we're more focusing on the open space that's not developed.
Right.
Okay.
well,
I
then
think-
you get to talk,
Protected open space.
and then you talk though, trails. To me, that would fall under more of an open space than it would be a parks commission.
Yeah.
So there are those things, or conservation or and trails. Like in my personal opinion, you would move. What do we got? Yeah, like parks. Parks would go under a parks commission, fields, athletic, recreation would go under a parks commission. And then, yeah, that stuff is more of a parks commission, and then communications both, everybody has that, so, but then conservation, again, my opinion. In trails, that would be more of an open space, this type group. So I think you would.
There'll be crossover, obviously.
Some,
Look like
yeah,
Medway, there's
100%.
definitely a crossover between them.
100%.
That's the only reason I was saying, if you have that one group advocating for all of the space that we're using outside.
Right, and maybe it is better to have them.
I don't know.
I don't know, that's just my opinion, and maybe it is a better idea to have 2 more spots, and those are more people more focused on conservation.
Yeah, you have that expertise, maybe,
Right.
or people that are into
Right.
that. What do you think, Ben? I mean,
A commission that, that's created under the town's charter, so the town's charter basically spells out how the town government works, and there's a charter. Says that there shall be a parks commission and references the general laws under which they operate, and there shall be 3 members, so obviously if we want to do 5. And I don't think it's a bad idea, it requires a change to the town charter, so it's something that is presented to town meeting, and then town meeting, assuming they approve it, believe it or not, it has to go to the legislature to be approved, because that charter is a legal document that's adopted by the state to say this is how the town of Bellingham runs. So if we were gonna have an open space commission, it would be a group like this, that's like an ad hoc group. We're here to complete a task, and when that task is completed, we're done. So an open space committee might be a subgroup of the conservation commission, and work with the conservation commission to identify parcels and advocate for open space money.
Because the Conservation Commission's already in the charter, the Parks is already in charter. There's no open space commission.
No,
It's
no.
just a subset.
Yeah, it's a subset, but just like this group
Right.
is a subset of the plan. I think this is, him running it, but I think, one of the things we need to have is an active open space and recreation plan. It's important when we go for state funding. If we don't have one, we're not eligible for certain grants. So it's important from that perspective, but it's also important because it gets us all thinking about, all the things that need to get done. We're insulated, John and I are insulated, we get comments here and there, but the more people that are involved in trying to say, hey, you know what? We got some problems out there and these are the areas that we need to address and target. And, it's very helpful, especially, when we start thinking about, moving forward and what's the direction we need to take. And I agree, maintenance is the big issue because you hear it over and over again. Great, they're gonna put in the playground, what's it gonna look like in 6 years, Personally, I think the playgrounds we have are in decent shape.
Yeah.
But maintenance is always gonna be an issue.
It's always.
Consider it no matter what you do.
And I think it would be an issue at our like undeveloped parcels too, and probably wouldn't take up too much of their time if they had like some involvement in that, like even if it was just like weekly inspection of certain undeveloped parcels that people like to use for recreation. And like, oh, found some trash, Concom can get that or something.
But even that, we'd have to nail down who's doing that inspection. It sounds like nothing, but it
Add it to the list.
So I think, and it is a great idea. I don't disagree with the idea, but that's a perfect example of like, okay, let's do this, but who's gonna do it?
Right.
And make and actually do it and follow up with the whatever it is, illegal dumping, tree came down across the trail, whatever it may be, and see those things through or contact the correct people to make sure the problems get addressed. You don't want to just note the problems and then you go back and by the end of the season, that same problem stayed. So ideally do the inspection and the problem is resolved unless it's a major issue. But so that's again, that's a key thing in this all of it is nailing down how it's going to happen.
I think it's a good example. I think the SNET is whoever's doing it. I don't know how it's managed. It's done incredibly well.
It's a state.
There's a group.
It's the state. I walk that trail almost, I'd say at least 5 out of 7 days a week. In town.
Yeah.
A tree falls and, I've gone, walked back to my house to grab some tools just to push it out of the way. Come back, it was already cut.
Yeah, they've
And I'm like, how the 45 minutes.
they take good care of those.
So that's state,
Yeah.
huh? That's state. Wow.
That's the state, DCR takes care of those.
And they have.
I thought I was gonna give you a couple with that.
It wasn't free before.
It was a brown one.
I looked the way of the trail, right?
Take his garbage bags at the end of the trail. You gotta pick it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have obviously access to more funding. They have access to more
yeah.
staff and
They
that.
probably have gators up and down, like,
Yeah.
taking, but yeah, no doubt. And there's groups specifically, they might have that. And that's just one of their
They've got
things.
at least 2 volunteer groups that I've
Yeah.
seen. There's one on the
Yeah.
Franklin side,
Yeah.
and I've also seen one more towards Blackstone on that end. I thought it would be Bellingham, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And maybe that's trying to group. I know it's hard to get people to volunteer for stuff. I know having done youth sports and having people, just
Just coaches for everything.
yeah, everything or hey, come to field cleanup day, and if you show up to that and you're not on the board, you're on the board the following year. Like that's what happened. But I think doesn't the town common have a group of people? Isn't there a group of? Is it?
Came by the park department.
Oh, I thought there was a group of like seniors.
Yeah, there's the commissioner, so there's another commission. It's the town common commission. They oversee just the town common. And what they do is they get senior tax work off volunteers to do the planting.
Yeah.
A lot of things here, but the parks department, which is the maintenance group of the DPW, takes care of that. They do a great job there. Obviously, that's a you know, a piece that we pay a lot of attention to, because it's right in the center of town, heavily used.
And that's a good example of success. I think,
Yeah.
because it's beautiful. I bet people outside of town say, I love what you guys have done at Town Common.
Yeah.
So it takes a village.
Yeah.
It was a sea of asphalt at one time.
I remember.
Yeah, remember?
When I first went there with Almax, that was the only grocery store
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
People gave us a hard time for wanting to take that down, the Elmex. Oh, they never had a shop, pretty prominent in front of it.
Yeah.
That would have been a bad decision.
Yeah.
Good decision that way.
Yeah.
There were other, I had pulled up the email that Hannah had sent out. And I think you had followed up on it. You and I have to get together on recreation stuff, I think maybe.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
think, Hannah was just hoping we could just exchange you had spoken to the Rentham.
Yeah, I shared the notes that I remember
Yep.
from it. I shared it with
Oh,
you
yes,
today.
okay.
See if you can access it. If you can't, and I put it on the shared drive.
And it does have the original documents. We thought they were misplaced, but I know you brought them.
Oh, she does?
He does have.
Oh,
them.
okay.
Yeah,
Thought they were shredded.
They went out.
I
Had them in.
think you stole them now.
But we got them back.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff has them too. He's been out. He actually just Jeff Clinton got a kidney. So the Rentham Rec director. So I just texted him today to ask him a question about some of the groups that the outside groups for their specialties and the fertilization and stuff. What else? Proposed action plan. We already did that.
Any of that in-house, like mowing, any of that?
No, they mow. So they do seasonal. They have seasonal employees. So they don't. The DPW is not involved with it at all.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
And so they bring in Sports Turf Specialties comes in to start the season, and they make sure like all bases are lined up, infield is done, so it starts off unbelievable. And then like the soccer fields, they top dress them and they make sure that they're level and all that stuff to start the season. And then he has seasonal employees that he's the only full-time employee.
Yep.
And then he has seasonal people who cut grass and weed whack and do that stuff. And he said for him, it's great because he knows he's been in town forever. So he knows the high school senior who's a great kid who's going to show up and will do exactly what he tells him to do. And he has the Rice complex is named after Bill Rice. Bill Rice still cuts grass there. He's one of the employees.
Oh, no way.
So he has like a vested interest in doing it. So finding those people, he found that DPW just was busy. Like you guys have a whole bunch of other stuff to do. So to add in, hey, can you weed whack around the Little League baseball field? Was like, yeah, after we do these other 4,000 things that we don't have enough guys for. So, but so they bring in Sports Turf Specialties, and then Sports Turf Specialties works with, that's the name I was trying to get. They work with a fertilization company. They work hand in hand.
Are they a big company, Sports Turf Specialties? It must be big.
They do Fenway Park.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, really?
Like they are if you're going to have fields done. And he said, once you do, so they start off with a clean slate there, and Sports Turf Specialties part of when they built that complex. But ever since then, they come in every year. Now, if you had to take a baseball field and get it back up to what it should look like, whether it's fertilization, infield, all that stuff, that's more expensive. But once you do that and then you bring them in every year, then it's just easy and seamless. And then having the right, and he has his maintenance workers, make sure they touch base with those guys. It's pretty close. I think it's in Norfolk.
Yeah, I can see it for the Blackstone Street fields, the upper and lower.
Yeah.
The restaurant fields, I don't know that they're at the point now. They almost need to be, you're on the committee, so they're reconstructing the baseball field and all that good stuff.
But even once you do that, bringing them back in, because the average person who cuts grass and things like that doesn't really know how to maintain an infield. You know what I mean? Which is why people are putting in turf, because then you don't have to maintain the infield. So that's why but they're all grass up at the Rice complex.
Yeah.
So that's why he brings them in. But they do Sweat Field, which is around the corner near the elementary school. And he just has found that but they've also increased their user fees per kid by a significant amount. But then they get there and wow, this place is beautiful. So they're not, and it's Rentham, so it's a little, there's a little more money there. But the initial investment would be a lot for you, but I think the long term, it just because you're maintaining it every year and teaching,
and it doesn't go, and then you don't get puddling. It's maintained properly, so the drainage is good. And, I mean, it stays where, like you said, where it.
Yeah, and like you said, I think if you're gonna do something to one of the fields up at High Street, you probably should just scrape it off the earth and start from scratch and have them. And that's where you like phase things in. Like, we're gonna do this field sports, and then they're gonna come to the beginning of the year and do it. I think they might come at the end too. I don't know. And then get your next field. So, because if you did them all at the same time, it would be a huge.
Yeah,
multi-million.
three fields, I mean, good bones, I mean.
Yes, 100%.
When you look at it, it has a nice pitch, it was built that way.
Yep.
So it pitches, what would it be, east to west or north to south, I mean, you can see it when you stand back, and the whole idea was so that you wouldn't have to put drainage in the water, drains beautifully. You know,
Yeah.
that field, I don't think that field gets soupy, does it?
Which one?
The ones up top.
No, those are great. Down below.
Down below,
Yeah, you're at the bottom of the hill. The top ones are good. There's a
Yeah.
couple spots, but
Yeah.
that's so when we have a good footprint, like you said, there's good bones there, but it's just like getting it to the right spot and staying there.
That's where somebody like this can come in and get them. You know, we've tried before shutting them down, I don't know, for a season.
They
one
do,
field,
but then you can't change, like if you move the soccer field this way, it doesn't work with that footprint. So,
Cause you gotta pay attention to where the fixtures are for
Yeah.
the sprinklers, you can't have the covers, no soccer field and whatnot.
right. You'd love to be able to like move it this way, that way, this way, that way, and switch it that way, but that's pretty difficult to do given. But so that's where you add another turf, then that's the wear and tear, and you can rest things a little bit and use it some more. But that group has been, I just saw Peter upstairs, and he made a joke to me about it because he knows I'm angry. Like it's been going on for a couple of years now. And it was in the middle of COVID, and the company that we hired has been Gale Associates has been less than stellar in their responses lately. So I'd like to do something different for planning. Like they're doing a schematic plan. That's what they were hired for. They spent like $30,000.
For all the fields, for the whole school complex.
Yeah, right. Anything between the middle school and the high school, that whole area. To read like leave the turf where it is, but then what do we do with, get a baseball field that, like, yes, we get it up to where it needs to be, and then it goes back to disrepair. The one down below where you guys got rid of those things, like that one's been kind of not really used, and the softball guys will do something to it, so it's a little piecemeal. So I think if you could have a plan with these, I mean, I'm pitching sports turf specialties. I don't get any money out of this, but they are the company. Like if you ask Jeff, he'll tell you he would never use anyone else. And if you looked at the list of clients that they use, they're the best.
Wow.
But
I don't know how many are out there either. I may not be.
there's not many out there. That's the other issue. Is like there's not many companies that do this year in and year out.
Right.
They are literally, they do Fenway Park. They're the company that does Fenway Park, and they've done, when Gillette used to have grass, they did Gillette. And, yeah. So, and I used them when I was an athletic director. We used them, and they did a great job. But then the next year, like, I was the AD at King Philip for a couple of years, and then I was in Stoughton, and then I went back to the kid business. I'm back to teaching and coaching. Because that job stinks. All people do is complain. So, and you're out every night until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So I used to deal with Dennis Baker all the time. We used to play each other. So, but yeah, so I think I'd love to see like that, just the planning of it, and doing one thing at a time, and showing on some
getting stuff done.
Yep.
I think prioritizing, it's not like the greatest priority, and maintenance, trying to improve upon what we have. Now coming up with a plan and coming up with the means of, once we prioritize, moving them forward on an annual basis. The town does its capital in November, and everybody knows that, and everybody's lined up for funding in November. That's the time,
I'm just saying, and not that this is easy, but just listing every property we went to, right? Whether it's Blackstone Street Fields or I'm trying to think of the High Street, and then the path behind it, and listing literally like what are 3 things. You don't, because you can add a lot of stuff to spreadsheets, and it gets a little ominous, to be honest with you. I'm going through, what does this column mean? But if you looked at it and said, so like the trail behind High Street Fields, right? I'll just take that, goes up to the Blackstone River. It's a great spot. It's a great little trail. It's a little buggy. But if you just did, like there was a thing with information on it, if you just updated that and got some debris off it, that's a win, right? Like we improved that trail. It's a great place to bring your dog and walk back there.
And then publicize it on the website.
Yeah,
There, it's on a list, that list of location, that's town owned.
yeah, it's part of High Street. It's under High Street.
Ugh.
And it goes back behind,
Yeah, to the Charles. right?
yeah, to the Charles. What did I say?
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's okay.
Charles, to the Charles River.
But that's.
I didn't know there was a trail there.
Yeah, so exactly. So we fix something, we publicize it, and then more people will know.
Oh, 100%. You get the open space sign at the trailhead and a kiosk.
And there's one there, and I literally think you could just, take a little paint and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut it back a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a start, like just that's a win. And look what the open space group is trying to do, and that might not cost, that could be my son's project on the Saturday, like you're gonna go see anything.
You and I can volunteer for simple.
Yeah, I think if you give someone a task and say, this is all we need you to do, it's gonna take an hour, all right, I'll do that. Take their picture next to it, I don't care.
Yeah.
But then the other piece that who's doing all that and organizing it, like, all right, you're doing the bird project down there and you're doing painting this. So there's a lot to it, but at least starting with exactly.
And if it's the trail,
Now I don't want to be on it.
that needs to get on the list, but that might fall under this, stay under this group, trail.
It's all conservation land, the Hatchet Fields are actually, it's a conservation commission parcel, and all the land behind it is all conservation.
Yeah,
And that's where the trail is, so that's why when they say High Street, it's all that property going back.
yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. But that's a perfect example. of something that could needs to get on the list.
Once it becomes a functioning working trail, then you can. Parks
Yeah.
Commission trail.
No, it's a trail that doesn't go in the park.
What time, I'm gonna check that out because I haven't seen it, but, does anybody do any maintenance on the trail? Like if a tree goes down across it, what happens?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's
It's
no.
natural, okay, all right, so.
It was way down, at one point in time, and then, a couple of Eagle Scout projects, actually,
Yeah.
the kiosk, but, yeah, I haven't been back in that trail since the Eagle Scout did the project, and I watched it with them, I don't know how many years ago.
I went right after there was tons of rain and that. Like there's like a waterfall there and stuff like that. It's pretty, yeah. Or a dam, or there was a dam, so the water, it's a really, my wife went up with me because she's like, she used to take my son back there when my daughter played softball to keep him, and he loves that area.
Yeah.
Like he'd play in those woods all day. So there are some great spots like that
Yeah.
people, and it's not that long. I think it's like a mile something out and back or something like that. I kept track of it, but just getting a couple of those W's under our belt and doing that. But, and then the other thing, I was supposed to look at maps. I don't know if we have enough
I
time.
updated 3 of them and I put them up there.
Yeah, so I think it maybe that we can add that to the next one.
We could do that on the next one.
Yeah.
You updated 3 of the maps? Yeah, so,
3 on my list.
yeah.
There's
I
a
haven't
ton of,
had time, but I know Hannah sent us a list of updates and consistencies she wanted that we'll incorporate into the final maps slash
Yeah, there's-
maps we have at the next meeting.
there's a whole bunch of them on here.
Yeah, you did a lot of good statistical work, so.
We really need that many maps.
Yeah, a lot of mine were like me like flipping tape files and exporting a table and being like, all right, I'll just throw this into a map.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
there's some recommendations.
That's the map guy, but, you know,
Yeah.
he's like,
Well, Ariane does maps too. She's doing them in
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe that could be part of it next.
Yeah, we should just do that on the next one.
Yeah.
Unless did you have anything you wanted to just at least just throw in about the maps, Dave? We can review them next time. I mean, since you, is there,
No, just like Ariane was mentioning, I was looking at Hannah's notes and making those changes.
Yeah.
And getting them into that.
yeah. that'll be
If
If you
fine.
want to draw like trails that you know of on the maps, we could put them into,
Yeah, I
Like
haven't
our-
gotten that far yet either. I think that would be like the action plan map.
yeah, or like our
That's what
unique
I drew
features.
Yeah.
yeah, we are talking there, Maple and, High Street. And,
Huh. I gotta check out. One day I was driving down Taunton from North Main before the wells. And I swear it looked like there was a trail
On the right side?
left.
Because I know-
Maybe I was, I was driving and I got over the, oh, it doesn't trail, so I didn't really get a good look at it.
Runs through the.
That's,
To the
it would have been a railroad, you could tell because the trees, the way it's like arced.
Yeah,
Is that still railroad tracks?
no.
It's
no
just
railroad,
Not tracks, but it's the old rail beds here.
It cuts over
We
Beaver
have
Brook.
beaver dams there, you know, and that's one of the places where we have the beavers, yeah.
So that, do people walk that? Like how far does that
It
go?
looks pretty warm, but with a lot of
Hmm.
kids on bikes and ATVs. that do
Yeah,
things too.
okay,
I've never walked them.
yeah,
Drive by.
I got a quick look as I was going by, and it piqued my interest. I meant to ask, and I just kind of forgot about it, but,
I think it
Okay.
cuts over to the railroad track that cuts behind the future new DPW.
is it possible to add that trail to one of the maps?
That's what Ariane was just saying.
Oh, okay,
We
I'm
need to
sorry.
cut out the trail.
If you
Okay,
guys draw it on, then we can turn it into shape files.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally like print it out and with a pen, draw it on.
I wonder how many people in town know about that trail,
Which one?
the one
The
we were
High
just
Street.
talking about, High Street.
Yeah, I think if your kid played softball, you.
Right, that,
Yeah.
because it's a little isolated, I think.
It is, it's in the back field, it's right on like the first baseline behind the dugout.
So you would see it from the parking
But
lot.
there's nothing that says trail in here from.
Right, because I've been in the parking lot many times, I drive by that, you know. and I'm
Sure.
just like,
Well, I've been in that lot,
We did a
never
speed
noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good, yeah, and there's arrows, there's little red arrows up on trees and stuff. I think they probably need to be updated because my wife's like, there's no arrows here, but it clearly was. It's Yeah, exactly.
Lost in the
like a Scooby-Doo episode. Yeah, so just a couple of, so I'll look on it. My question, I literally want to just list them all and be like, all right, that's a park, that's an open space. And then if I
I do
know,
have a spreadsheet on there of town-owned properties.
yeah,
That
and
would
then just
help.
look at like, give us one W there and move on to another one and. Cause some stuff's gonna be expensive and some stuff's.
You're right.
And if we had a list of like little things, I know kids are looking for service hours and they're doing. My kids have to get it for like National Honor Society, things like that. Okay. What else? I think that was it as far as the email went. Maps, proposed action plan, Parks and Rec Department. We talked about CPA. I think Sahan was gonna bullet points for educational documents. So if we do go forward with the trying to push the CPA, I think he was going to get information on that. And then I think they're still working on conservation parcels. It sounds like Hannah, we had to go and like, I didn't do a great
Oh,
job.
the mapping.
Yeah, the mapping.
I got 2 more, didn't
Yeah. So I don't know how far along with that. I know she had interns and stuff too, and I did a few and dropped them all. But then some I couldn't access because it was locked or.
Yeah.
Up a look in. She sent me one. I got
Okay, so.
Is that the Silver Lake one?
No, Jinx,
I
right
don't
one.
They wanted me to get on like
They
the island in Silver Lake.
Lake Street. The town.
You can get in,
But
but
it's
then that,
walking around the whole reservoir.
oh, that's, okay.
Yeah, I think the parcel like
She wanted you
is
to get
the
on the
reservoir.
island?
Well, no, when you go,
Because you can't.
one of the parcels, it was like, this is part of it. The middle of Silver Lake, is there an island there?
Yeah, there's an island there.
Yeah. and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is it?
I think there used to be a bridge.
Either wait till it's frozen or you wait till it's super dry.
There is a trail.
Yeah, from Lake Street.
I don't know, I guess if you walk the access road, but when you get into the parking area to the right, there's a spillway. And then, yeah.
You're talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about this section. I already did that section. You're talking about right.
Oh, you're on the Lake Street, oh, yeah. Oh, geez, okay.
That's,
The other side of the bridge.
Oh. never
Yeah.
mind.
yeah.
And there's leases and other people's land and. I don't wanna make people angry.
Does anybody have anything else before we kind of wrap up? I mean, discussion, okay?
Okay.
Perfect.
Anything else from people online? Motion to adjourn, do we have to do
Somebody second that.
that?
All right,
There is,
everyone have a great night.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.